So you're starting to wonder if this relationship or situationship is right for you. Maybe it's become toxic. Well, here's two ways to figure that out. And the number one way to realize that this relationship is not healthy for you anymore is if the other person keeps threatening to break up with you consistently when they want you to change, versus having the emotional capability, capacity, and intelligence to come to you and be vulnerable enough to express themselves and set healthy boundaries versus threatening. Because once they get in this vicious cycle of threatening to break up with you when they want you to change something, you start becoming in a place of thinking that you're not worthy any longer. That you start believing you're no longer worthy and whatever you're doing is not enough. And it's a ploy. It's a tactic to get you to start submitting and doing exactly what they want. In their mind, they're not going to break up with you. They just want to manipulate you into doing what they want you to do. And this is how they do it. Typical narcissistic, covert narcissistic traits is they threaten and use your emotions against you to shift you. Because let's face it, if you're going to even consider breaking up with someone, you're going to tell that to them. That's not like a last resort thing. That's the resort to break up. That's the final choice. Like if you're going to say that to someone, it's time to break up. Coming to someone with emotional maturity and setting boundaries and saying, hey, I feel this way when you do this. I don't appreciate when you do this behavior. Can we shift? And then focusing on making incremental adjustment to each other to build the relationship, because you want to stay in the relationship to grow together, and you're trying to build it together, versus I'm going to break up with you if you don't line up. Like, that's manipulation. So, and number two is going to be when you start realizing things like this or watching videos like this, or they may even say, if they hear it, if you're watching this video near them, they'll be like, why are you watching stupid videos like that? Right? Or, well, no, here's the real reason, though, for number two. So number two is if they start noticing when you start pulling away and they start shifting to being that goody-goody, lovey-dovey, love bomb you type person that they were in the beginning, right? And sometimes, especially covert narcissistic people, will be very sexual and hypersexual in the beginning, and then they'll start using sex as leverage. So that way, if they pull that away and take it away from you, you start wondering what's wrong and how can you serve them more, right? And where was I going with this? Number two. Oh yeah, it's when you start pulling away though. I don't know. I guess that just had to come out, that previous part. When you start pulling away, they notice, and then they start acting like this goody goody, and they start offering more things. They start telling you you're worthy. They tell you that you're lovable, and all this stuff, right? Maybe sex is back on the table. So when they notice these things, then all of a sudden they're the best boyfriend or girlfriend, right? And I dated this one woman once, and it was a similar kind of pattern. And what I realized is every time when we were away from each other, like when it would be like Christmas time and I'd go be with my family, or certain situations where I'd be gone for like 3 days and not with her, and I would give her space because something was off. Like it was always this like weird argumentative thing that she wanted more from me beforehand, before I left, and then I would give her space, and then always towards the end or a couple days later she would be like calling me, asking me how I'm doing, and then she would always be saying, I've done a lot of thinking, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong. And then when we would get back together, we were living together at the time, it was like all of a sudden I'm the best boyfriend ever. Nothing was ever wrong. Because she felt that I was pulling away, that I was having realizations in my head. And she probably thought I was talking to my family and my mom about the relationship. Because this person was at one point physically abusive with me. She's thrown my phone. She's done all sorts of mad things and not healthy things. And especially the part that looped me in was, and this is what narcissistic people like to do, is they'll play the victim in all of their relationships, and they'll find someone who's emotional, who's an empath, and they want to drain you, because if they can play a victim that all their previous relationships sucked, And they act like they're healed, but yet they keep bringing them up every time they're drinking. All these things keep coming up. Right? It gets you to fall in more into them, thinking that you're playing a hero role. Because I felt like I wanted to be the best boyfriend ever for this person because of all of our previous relationships. I tried so hard and sacrificed my own needs in the process. So if you start noticing these types of behaviors in your relationship, and this person wasn't doing anything to get better. Like, they would not go to therapy. They literally were not deliberately choosing to get better. Instead, they would keep expressing these sob stories to have me fall in line to wanting to serve them more. So be careful for these things. Remember, if they're threatening to break up with you, it's time to break up. They don't have the emotional maturity and the capacity to set healthy boundaries and, number one, leave you. Because if they're even thinking about that you're not a cooperative component in this relationship, they should be breaking up with you. There's no like room to mess around. It's time to go. Okay, so that's a manipulative tactic. And number two, when you start pulling away and they start noticing that, all of a sudden they become way better, kinder, and all of a sudden they're like when you first met them. So just be careful. And for whatever reason, this video wanted to come out today, and I wanted to share that. So just make sure that you're being treated and that you're worthy of the love that you deserve. And if you notice these things, speak to them about their behavior. If you really want to make it work on your end as well, tell them, I feel this way when you do this. I actually start to feel like I'm not enough when you do this behavior. Can you stop doing this? This back and forth, you telling me you're going to break up with me, this is not healthy for me. I don't feel comfortable when you do it. And I feel like I have to put in way more effort than I should be. It becomes too much for me. And express that. Can you stop doing this and create the call to action? Do you think this is something you can stop doing? And if they agree to it, great. If they don't, and if they do agree and that happens again, it keeps happening, it's time to go. They're clearly manipulating you. So set your boundaries, express it, and see the reaction. If they want to threaten to leave because you're expressing yourself, they're not the one for you. Especially if they're narcissistic. They will not have the capacity to be emotionally invested with you and actually care about your emotions. They care about how to manipulate your emotions so you can do stuff for them. Especially if you're someone who has worthiness wounds and people pleases. Okay, so have an alchemizing day. Use this info to your advantage and just be careful. All right, you're worthy of the love that you really are meant to have. And if you're going through this, I'm sorry. All right, so peace out.